This is Beales. It's a department store in Silver Street in Bedford, and I think there are a couple of other branches in other places around the place. I don't know where they are. Anyway, this poster and posters very like it go up from time to time throughout the store, and every window in the store that faces out to the street is covered in these posters. And they really annoy me, and I made a video about this recently because they're lying. It says 15% off everything today. But then the tiny print at the bottom says that's not true. Up to 15% off some items and nothing whatsoever off of other items. It's not the end of the world, but it's what we've come to expect from retail and from corporations in general, from businesses. And this kind of behaviour is not punished by the state. And in fact, the figureheads that preside over such businesses are often rewarded with knighthoods. TalkTalk Springs to mind here. They had a series of advertisements a long while ago saying it was $1.99 or some similarly tiny amount of money for broadband. Absolute rubbish, of course. It doesn't include line rental, which is a stupid thing to do because you can't have any services without the line rental. So deeply misleading. Anyway, so I made a video about this a little while ago, and I thought I'd practice what I preached soon after I uploaded the video, so I actually gave Beale's department store a phone call, and I recorded it, and I've got it, but she didn't want to give her permission for me to broadcast it, oddly enough. So here's a little soupçon of the things that she said, and these are direct quotes. First one, well, this is the retail business. I'm afraid this is the way it goes. This is just the way things are in the retail business. Throughout my life I've seen and been bewildered and depressed by this guff. It's the extent to which people who are otherwise intelligent and fully functional accept a status quo without analysing it and, where appropriate, kicking it in the bollocks. It may be the way things are, but it stinks, it's immoral, it's dishonest. Stop doing it. You will find that most stores will try to seduce you in with offers. Well, more of the everyone else does it, so will I, or everyone else does it, so it must be okay. But also, I have no problem with you trying to seduce us in with offers. I have a problem with you lying to us. But of course you won't couch it in that way. That's far too honest. So you use euphemisms to make yourself more able to avoid seeing what you're truly doing and who you really are. Well, I put that to her, and she took the question patiently and answered it, which I was pleasantly surprised about. And here's what she had to say. Well, I suppose the disclaimer is they are up to 50% off, and you'll find 10 to 20% of the items will be, and some of the items won't be. So we put it for the highest. If we've got 10%, it's quite okay to do that. What she meant here is if 10% of the items are at 50% off, then it's quite okay to do that. She might be right in terms of the law, I don't know. But in my view, she's wrong morally, because the poster doesn't say 10% of our items are 50% off today. It doesn't say that. It very specifically and deliberately doesn't say that. It says something entirely different. What it says is 15% off everything today. It's a barefaced lie. Well, I told her that's how I thought, and she said she was terribly sorry to hear how I felt that way, but she was a very busy manager. So at that point I told her that I'd recorded the call, and her tone immediately and massively changed. She became very unfriendly. She denied that she was a manager for a little while, but then did a reversal because it was just silly. And I said, how can I notify Beales about this video so that they have a right to reply, correct errors and so on? And she said, I'm just not going to respond, which was truly odd. And eventually she hung up the phone on me. Well, you might think it's a storm in a teacup, but in my view this stuff is corrosive to our society. It teaches us to expect and participate in a culture of cynical dishonesty and public manipulation, and I loathe it. So what can we do? Well, the biggest thing is to wake up and ask yourself, is what's happening here okay? And by the way, normal doesn't mean okay. And if it's not okay, do something. Push back. Say, no, I don't like this. Now, what does that mean? Well, if you're a customer, complain, speak to a manager, ask questions, ask embarrassing questions, provide feedback in whatever ways they provide. Certainly speak to the manager, but send an email, use a Trustpilot review, use any kind of public review online. If they have a Facebook presence or a Twitter presence, poke them in the eye, say you don't like it. It's not very nice. And if you're an employee, you don't have to surrender your moral compass when you've got an employer. I'm not advocating you get yourself fired, although I've actually resigned from a job because I didn't like the moral stance of the company. But there are some things you can do, especially if you're a manager, if you're in a position of power. Perhaps your company trots out some line about what decent folks they are and what high standards they've got. Just point to the sign and ask carefully, does this support our core values? Does this paint us in the light, in the public's eyes that we want to be seen in? Is this good for society? Are we a fine, upstanding corporation, or are we a bunch of gits? And see where it takes you. Now, obviously, I'm not responsible for your employment status, but do what you can within the bounds of your own courage and abilities and the company that you work for. And of course, if you're the big manager, if you're the guy or the lady at the top, then look in the mirror.